What's going on, everybody? We have Iren's Bitcoin mining update to talk about. I tried putting this out there yesterday, but I had a bunch of technical difficulties, so here's another shot at it. Iren in the month of February, so keep in mind that this came out the other day, but this is going over February. They pulled in $45 million of revenue in that month. It cost them $13 million to mine their Bitcoin in terms of electricity. They're running at 510 megawatts in their data center capacity with 31 exahash per second of hash rate and working their way towards 2,000 GPUs. 1,896 H100s and H200 NVIDIA GPUs, $32 million profit on their hardware. Now, similarly to CleanSpark, they expect to reach a 50 exahash target over the next 4 months, pretty similar to CleanSpark's timeline. Their AI cloud service was nearing full utilization at the end of February. Their AI data center at Horizon 1 has ongoing customer diligence, and their Sweetwater 1.4 gigawatt project is on track for energization in April of 2026. They're also finalizing their 600 megawatt Sweetwater 2 connection agreement. Now let's look at their Bitcoin mining numbers. How much Bitcoin did they mine? Just like other Bitcoin miners, they did see a decrease month over month. That's pretty much what we have seen across the board. Their average hash rate was at 28.7 exahash per second. They were selling their Bitcoin at around a $95,570 average, and their electricity cost per Bitcoin was $28,341. Very efficient Bitcoin miner, the best in the industry. Find me another Bitcoin miner with this level of a joules per terahash. There isn't one, that I know of at least. Now, their revenue from AI cloud services did grow a little bit month over month. They had a 1.2 million in revenue versus 0.8 in the prior month, and their hardware profit was a 1.1 million versus a 0.8 million, still a 96% margin. Now, we do have some words from their CEO, Daniel Roberts. Our core Bitcoin mining operations remain strong and resilient. We're also seeing increased demand for our AI and HPC offerings. Our AI cloud service approached full utilization by month end, driven by strong interest in NVIDIA H100s and 200s. And looking ahead, next generation air-cooled Blackwells. Horizon 1 development is progressing well, with strong customer interest, including single tenant demand far exceeding its initial 75 megawatt capacity. Customer work streams are advancing through technical due diligence, pricing negotiations, and letters of intent. Here are some little technical commentaries. Strong and resilient margins that are underpinned by low electricity costs and sector-leading fleet efficiency. Now, I looked around for their actual joules per terahash here. It doesn't have it, but they are in like the 15s, I believe, while others are in the 20s, and CleanSpark just recently got into, I believe, the 17s. So Iren is an extremely efficient Bitcoin miner. Efficiency is key. And at a lower Bitcoin price, let's move on. At a lower Bitcoin price of 80,000, their annualized operating cash flows should be $500 million at their 50 exahash target when they get there. And this is talking about an 80K Bitcoin. Bitcoin production declined in February because of 10% less days. Their revenues from AI cloud services increased. We went over that. They do have some events coming up. I'm not going to mention them, but here they are on screen. They also go over some of their projects. Like I say, I'll leave this down below for you guys. And here's an overview of different sites. They, of course, mine in Texas. They have Canada sites. And here is basically their roadmap of construction, energization, and operation. The green is the Childress site. Light blue is Prince George, and the darker blue is McKinsey. They have some big growth plans. Aggressive growth from the Bitcoin miners is key. If you aren't aggressively growing your hash rate, and others are, you're getting left in the dust. In Iren's case, it has been growing its hash rate quite considerably. And earlier in this cycle, it was much lower on the list of Bitcoin miners in terms of hash rate. Now, I did want to show you that on Iren's chart on the 4-hour, we are seeing a bullish RSI divergence. The RSI is picking up while the price continues to sell off. But as of late, basically as of the beginning of this year, Iren has been in a downtrend. It was nearly $16 in late December of 2024. And while Bitcoin has been cooling off this month, been kind of choppy, Iren and the other Bitcoin miners have either been selling off or have been absolutely dumping. Since the beginning of this cycle, when Iren was only a cheap dollar stock, it has only hit oversold a very small amount of times, less than Bitcoin. It is there again. This doesn't happen often, and I do see this as a buying opportunity for the likes of Iren. This was a Bitcoin miner that reported a profitable quarter in their last earnings. A nice growth in revenue, huge growth in revenue, if you ask me. And in the upcoming earnings, the quarter that we're in now, the quarter that ends in March, Iren expects another profitable quarter and another growth in revenue. Pretty nice growth in revenue to the tune of about $50 million. And year over year, massive growth in revenue. In the end, I believe Iren is going to continue to follow the cycle. And while on the short term, Iren has been in a downtrend ever since we broke this ascending resistance, if you look on the longer term, Iren is in a clear upward trend still. As many of you guys know, we had recent news the other day that Trump signed an executive order for a crypto reserve. However, it is a bit disappointing. They basically plan to hold all the Bitcoin that has been forfeited from illegal operations and the such. There's not necessarily any mentions of actually buying Bitcoin, using taxpayer dollars to buy Bitcoin. Now guys, if you want a combination of TDS and people that have no idea what the hell Bitcoin is, go look at Yahoo comments. I'll leave it down below for you. There is the most ridiculous comments I've ever seen in my life. Well, not really. How do monopoly money help anything? Cryptocurrencies have no intrinsic value. You'd be better off trading tulip bulbs because they actually turn into flowers. Oh, guys. We are still early. Look at this one. There's currently about 1 million Bitcoins in the world, and the US holds about 20% of that. Wow. Talk about wrong. At least someone came in and tried to correct them. And while some people might see this and be happy about it, you know, this means it will not cost taxpayers a dime in terms of buying Bitcoin in a strategic reserve. We're just going to hold it all. This isn't what Bitcoiners wanted. We wanted the US to slowly, methodically add Bitcoin to a Bitcoin reserve, not just sit on what they hold. Now, these statements doesn't mean that the US is never going to buy Bitcoin. And the fact that we are actually going to have a strategic reserve in the first place is a big step for Bitcoin and crypto in general, in my opinion. Now guys, keep in mind that today is the Crypto Summit. This is going to be at 1:30 Eastern Time. And I think this is where a lot of interesting things may happen. Some of the largest players in the industry are going to have Donald Trump's ear for the day. He'll be chatting it up with Michael Saylor. But we have a lot of big names going to this Crypto Summit. They're planning to discuss digital asset regulation as well as the mechanics of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And while this news is initially disappointing about the strategic Bitcoin reserve, not actually outright buying Bitcoin, I would say that the US puts Bitcoin in a more positive light than they were previously. And at times selling Bitcoin. We are not going to have to worry about the US selling Bitcoin any longer, which not that long ago was a concern if you guys remember last year. When Germany was selling, when there's talks of US selling their Silk Road Bitcoin, I believe. That at least is a non-issue anymore. So there's one positive. In my opinion, this is a bit disappointing. But looking at it as laying the groundwork for future legislative orders, for future positive developments for Bitcoin and crypto as a whole, I think this is a massive first step. Now, in terms of Bitcoin on a state level, we do have Texas pushing towards a Bitcoin reserve. As a side note, Texas's governor, Greg Abbott, is a pro-crypto governor. Texas is a massive hub for Bitcoin mining, and even Iren mines in Texas. So that's just a side note. But as said by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who presides over the Senate, creating the Texas Bitcoin Reserve is a bold step for other states to follow. Now, whether it ends up being Utah, Arizona, Texas, or potential other one as the first state to create a Bitcoin reserve, I do think it is going to happen. We have had some fail, as seen here. But I do believe out of this vast list, we will see at the very least a few states warming up to Bitcoin, starting a strategic reserve. Now, will this mean that they will be buying Bitcoin, or will they do something similar to Trump, where it's just, we're gonna just hold Bitcoin? I think from a state level, some are going to invest Bitcoin. And it's been mentioned in different proposals. But how are you guys feeling about Iren's mining update? How are you feeling about Iren's chart? What do you think of this Bitcoin strategic reserve news? Are you a bit disappointed like I am? Are you also excited on the prospects long term? Bitcoin is continuing to cement itself into the US markets, into the world, and the adoption just continues on. So on and so forth from cycle to cycle. But I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this Crypto Summit, guys. I'll let you know what happens from it. Maybe there's a reason he signed this executive order the day before the Crypto Summit, or it's just a coincidence. But I guess we'll find out shortly later today. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and have yourself a good weekend.